Hello and very welcome to this special post-budget analysis from ETGovernment. During an hour-long discussion, we'll try to decode the fine prints of budget announcement today and key takeaways for various sectors, including government IT, urban development, health, education, and many other sectors, including startups and all. To lead the discussion, today I'm joined by Mr. Alok Ranjan, former Chief Secretary of Uttar Pradesh, Dr. Bhimaraya Metri, Director IIM Nagpur, Dr. Vidya Sagar Singh, Senior General Manager and Head Digital Services at National Small Industries Corporation, better known as NSIC, Mr. Amit Jindal, co-founder of Lakhs Advisory, and Mr. Amit Singh, Partner Technology at PwC India. Mr. Ranjan, let me begin with you. Today we witnessed a lot of announcement during the budget, and the focus seems to be around the use of technology in defense sector, and effort has also been made to ensure that we are able to get to the level of 9.2% growth. So, in the beginning, I would like to have a just general sense of yours, your general assessment of union budget, sir.
That growth is important, growth is vital, and we shall focus on growth. And last year also the issue was that of privatization along with growth. And the economic survey also has talked about at least 8 to 8.5% growth in the coming year. And so the budget is focused on that. And the lucky thing about the budget at this time was that fortunately after the COVID, the vaccination program went on very well. And when the vaccination program went off so well, so as a result of which the economy has bounced back. And people are talking of a V-shaped recovery in the economy. And with a V-shaped recovery in the economy, what is happening is now that there is enough fiscal space available to the government to spend on various programs. And that is why I think a lot was expected in terms of increase in capital expenditure. That is there. There has been an increase in capital expenditure that has been assured in this budget. And there is a focus also on capital expenditure and public expenditure, as I noticed. On highways, 25,000 kilometers of national highways coming up, 400 Vande Mataram trains coming up, on ports, on other digital infrastructure. So a lot of expenditure is being made on the infrastructure area with the idea that this will generate a momentum in the economy, which will generate jobs also, and also a momentum in the economy and keep the growth rate going. I think that is a very heartening prospect of this budget. The second heartening prospect of the budget, of course, as you rightly pointed out, is the focus on technology. Almost everywhere you see a focus on technology. Not only they say will broadband be taken to each and every village, they talk about 5G being rolled about, they talk about Kisan drones, they talk about technology for the farmer, they talk about technology for the MSME sector, technology all over. You can see the imprint of technology all over the budget document. So, and I think that is as it should be, because this is the era of technology. And any state or any government or any country which does not keep pace with the change in technology is going to be left far behind. It's a knowledge economy now. You won't grow if you don't keep pace with the technology. While these two things are definitely heartening in my initial comments, I'd say, I may make some observations which I was not too, either I could not find them in the budget document or I was not particularly happy about. I did not notice any great emphasis on education or healthcare in the budget, which I thought are the two vital aspects still, especially after the impact of COVID. We have exposed the health infrastructure and has issues with the education sector also. So, except that, of course, they're saying e-classrooms, e-Vidya, online classes, again, technology, intervention in education. Again, in healthcare, they're talking about digital healthcare. They have talked about that. But that apart, anything very positive or forceful and any great increase in allocation for these sectors of health and education, I could not find. And that was one thing which I thought should have been there, because that should be the focus now of the Indian economy. All right, focus on physical infrastructure, but along with physical infrastructure, the social infrastructure is as important, because we have a demographic dividend, and so we have to develop our human capital. If we don't develop our human capital to the right level, the kind of growth that we're talking about will not come. And also, if the growth comes, growth will come with inequalities. We don't want growth with inequalities, right? So, and also, how do we address inequalities is something, again, which I was not very clear where this budget has said something. Of course, there are good development schemes also. PM Awas scheme is very good, 80 lakh houses. There's giving tap water to each and every household. That is an excellent scheme also, which they're continuing, which came last year. So these two schemes were good schemes. But Like talking of 60 lakh people getting employment. How will they get employment? There's no scheme for that. In fact, I was looking forward for an urban employment guarantee scheme, and especially after the migrant labor has come back, after the level of urban poverty. I thought on the lines of Manrega there should have been urban employment guarantee scheme, but I find no mention of that in this. Similarly, no increase in allocation of Manrega or increasing the days from 100 to 150 or increasing the wage rate in Manrega. So these are some of the areas, and also for the agriculture sector, though there is a heavy allocation, all right, but there's nothing new really. Of course, post-harvest and storage management, there is some focus on that. Again, focus on technology, as we said. MSP, we will ensure that maximum is bought on MSP. But that apart, I thought something more innovative or more something on the farm sector should have also come about. So these are my initial comments. I'll come back with you as we join the discussion. Yes.
Right. Now I'll go to Mr. Metri. What Mr. Ranjan was actually talking about, that there is focus on a capital growth and different sector has been touched upon, and there is emphasis on role of technology. But we also notice in the budget that our fiscal deficit is almost touching around 6.5%. So what we our receipt is somewhere around 22 lakhs crore, and the outlay is somewhere around 40 lakhs crore. So there is a huge gap. What would be your initial comment on the budget based on some of the things that you have been able to go through?
So, Mamaji, I think the budget, if you look at the overall total budget holistically, I must say that this is in sync with the last year's budget. If you compare and if you see, and many things are to carry forward, many of the schemes are continuing, and in connection with that, new schemes have come, and also this budget is in link with the global trend. And as Ranjanji rightly said, you also said a lot of emphasis has been given on technology, and what you are talking about, fiscal deficit current 6.9, now we have 6.5, and definitely 2025, I think it may come down further, as expected. But look at the inclusive development, the skill development, and also the PM Awas Yojana, PM Gati Shakti, and there are 7 engines have been given, and lot of thrust has been given, because growth of any economy, any country, projects plays an important role, and all the 7 areas basically, including logistic, rail, airport, I think further emphasis has been given, and the way China developed and grown because of the infrastructure as a backbone, I think a lot of thrust has been given, green bonds. And also, if you look at some of the areas like education, health, again, the connection with the other areas, for example, R&D, defense, and education, and similarly the mental health, and again the triple IT education. So like that, lot of link has been given. I think this budget is a very, very progressive, and also it is in sync with the global and the way we are moving. I think it is in connection, and particularly I must say that if you compare last and this year, to carry forward and to take it in spite of pandemic, how to move ahead and how to enhance in the right direction, I think it has included, I can say it is a holistic budget.
Absolutely. Now I'll go to Mr. Amit Jindal. Mr. Jindal, especially on the IT part, since most of the speaker has touched technology, and if you would have heard the speech of the finance minister, everywhere and there was some element of IT, as if the IT become a vehicle of transformation. So on IT, what we have noticed during the budget, that there is a proposal for digital university, which I believe was there also in the last budget. And in Kerala, something like this has already been happening, Kerala Digital University. Then there is a national digital health ecosystem, which was announced some month back, and it was rephrased here also. Then there are 75 digital banking units. E-passports will be started in 2023. And then there is also aspiration on the part of the kind of digital experience that you are able to offer in the metro cities. Same kind of experience should be there in the villages also. Somebody who is in the villages and trying to access internet, they should have similar experience in terms of the speed, in terms of the access to application and all. And also there was focus on launching digital currency via RBI, especially to regulate the cryptocurrency. Some leeway has been given to startups also. Would you like to share your views as to how do you look at the budget?
Yeah, good afternoon to all the panelists and all the viewers. I will start with a mission of Digital India, which says IT leading to IT, where IT stands for India talent leading to India tomorrow. Definitely in today's budget, if you're going to read, the emphasis is all on the IT side and on the technology side. So the Prime Minister have talked about the PM Gati Shakti national plan also, where they have talked about the 7 sectors, including airways, transport, routes. But these all sectors are being enabled through the technology and the IT infrastructure, which will be playing a critical role to achieve the 5 trillion economy by 2025. Talking about the digital banking, the government is critical, is understanding the new technology, be it blockchain, artificial intelligence, ALML, and are focusing on these new technology. Digital, talking about the digital payments, there have been a tremendous increase in the volume into digital payment side. It will be touching in value by $1 trillion by 2026, and currently in 2021, $3 billion transaction happened on the digital banking sides. By opening these 75 digital units, definitely the focus clearly on the new technology, on these blockchain and artificial intelligence, and to understand the growth uh, happening because of this technology that will enable us to achieve this 5 trillion economy definitely by 2025. So I will say that in totality, it's a growth budget which we are focusing on. Yeah.
Right. Now I'll go to Mr. Vidya Sagar. Mrs. Vidya Sagar, your organization actually promote a lot of small and medium enterprises across the country. And even in the budget, we have seen there is effort is being made to promote SME. And during the pandemic, we also noticed that MSME was the one area which were really affected. And lot of efforts were made to ensure that, those are able to get back to the normal growth rate. Based on the reading of the announcement during the budget, what is your assessment for MSME sector? What kind of announcement has been made, and is it in the right track for the sector?
Yeah, so Muhammad Ujaley, thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk on this subject here. So yes, so there are 3, 4. I think, in my view, there are some major game changer initiative which have been taken from the MSME point of view. One is, as we can see, there is a lot of emphasis on the digitization, overall digital and use of technology. So if you notice, they are talking about there's a Udyam, eShram, NCS, and ASEEM portal will be integrated. As of now, what is happening in there? We have so many portals, but they are all in silos. They are in isolation. So now I think there is a next step for the government, and they have taken a right decision to integrate all these portals and make full use of it actually. So what is happening, we already have a kind of minimum level of database of MSMEs, which because of the Udyog Aadhaar memorandum and Udyam registration and all that. So now government is saying that all these portals will be integrated and their scope will be widened. That means all these portals have the live organic databases. So what government is saying, that they will be providing services. And in terms of G2C, B2C, and B2B, G2C is government to consumer, B2C business to consumer, and B2B is business to business. So they are saying that in the areas of credit facilitation, skilling, and recruitment. So these are, if you see, for MSMEs, credit facilitation have always been a pain point, and they have been talking that So if we use these data and these portal for providing, the one is the credit facilitation, second is this manpower, skilled manpower to the MSME, which itself is a big challenge, because we work with MSMEs and we have noticed in many aspects. So I think this, if it's implemented properly, this can be a game changer for the MSME segment. This is one. And as you mentioned, second is that during the pandemic, still some of the sector, especially the finance minister says that hospitality and related services sector have still not recovered, because there have been off and on there is some kind of curfew or the weekend. So the hospitality sector, say for example travel, restaurant, food business, these business have got impacted. So the finance minister have made a provision of 50,000 crore additional budget, which he says that it will be utilized to uplift and on these hospitality sector. This is total budget have reached to 5 lakh crore, and that is a very, very positive step. And she have also extended the tenure of this emergency credit line guarantee scheme ECLGS up to March 23. So I think this is very good step to improve the MSME situation with the pandemic, and the tenure extension and the extension budget provision. Third is there is a very famous scheme called CGT-MSE. So the government is saying they will be infusing more fund in CGT-MSEs, and they are also talking that it will be revamped. I mean, now how it will be revamped have to be seen, with time, what government is going to do. But if it is again this, and they are saying 2 lakh crore, budget provisions, will be there for the financing MSMEs without collateral, because this is credit guarantee trust fund. So this is third. The one other very, very important announcement made is raising and accelerating MSME program, which is called RAMP program. So this is something new. So maybe earlier there was a scheme called Performance and Credit Rating Scheme. Some 2-3 years back it was closed. So maybe if government is coming up some RAMP scheme for raising and accelerating MSME performance, then I think that means government wants to bring more and more MSME into the formal sector, and maybe touch their pain point. And there is a 6,000 crore provision have been made over 5 years. So apart from this, if you see the one of the agro and rural sector have always been an issue, because we India is still an agro based economy and agro based country, I would say. So government have made a provision, and they are saying through co-investment model through the PE firm and VC firms, it will be managed by NABARD. Government is going to fund agro and rural startups. So that is again a very, very, I think, welcome decision, because there have not been a specific scheme for agro or these rural economies, not a tangible financial support. So I think this will cover that issue. Then there are some indirect announcement, as you see that duty on umbrellas will be raised to 20%, and there will be steel scraps duty will be reduced, because steel, there have been recently, if you see, there have been a lot of issue for MSMEs for getting raw material at the right prices. And one of the major raw material is steel. And the availability as well as the prices have gone very, very high. There was a lot of discussion. It was a lot of news. So government have considered some, I think that considered that issue, and they have made that for MSME secondary steel producer, if they allow this steel scrap without duty, I think it will solve problem to some extent. So these are some of the, I think, first-hand observation on the MSME.
Right.
A specific initiative. There are a few more which we can again talk.
Absolutely. And I'll go to Mr. Amit Singh. Mr. Amit, you actually cover technology in a broad length at PwC. And in today's budget, as I was asking to Mr. Jindal, that there is a lot of announcement has been made around technology, and even in other areas where there seems to be some role of technology as a vehicle of growth. So would you like to share your brief comment, initial comment as to how you look at the budget? I think you are on mute. Are you able to hear me, Mr. Amit? I think there seems to be some audio issue. So now I'll go to Mr. Ranjan. Mr. Ranjan, earlier you mentioned about capital gain, and there is one very important announcement, and I wanted to have your comment on that in the budget, which is directly related to government officers. Tax deduction limit. Both center and state government employees tax deduction limit to be increased from 10% to 14%. To have the this is one of the major announcement that has been made. So what kind of impact it is going to have, and how do you look at it?
You see, this is regarding the new pension scheme actually.
Yes.
After 2005, the old pension scheme was done away with, and a new pension scheme was introduced, in which the employee contributes 10%, and governments, whether it is central or state, were contributing 10%, which has been raised to 14%. So the government of India has raised its contribution to this, which will help in increasing the size of the corpus. And the larger the corpus is at the time of pension, better return is possible for the retiring employee. I think with this in mind, they introduced this. Though I must point out to you, Mohd, that a large portion of the employees, I notice in Uttar Pradesh also and everywhere, they are not in favor of the new pension scheme at all. They want the old pension scheme back because they say that the benefits of the old pension scheme are far more than the new pension scheme. And especially for those who are retiring in less than 25 years of service, the corpus is so small for them that new pension doesn't give them any return. And that the monthly payment they used to get in the old pension scheme acts as a kind of a social safety net for them. So that besides this, but this what you said is for the new pension scheme, they have made it slightly more increasing the corpus. Here, I would also like to point out that a lot of salaried class people were expecting some kind of a relief in the income tax, which has not come. And the middle class, I noticed from the Twitter and everywhere, are a little unhappy, so to say, about this, because they were expecting something. Either the standard deduction will go up, or ATC limit will be raised, or even the exemption limit may be raised. Some various options were there, and I think maybe that would have helped because at the moment the major problem with our growth. And with our growth rate is that the consumption demand is not coming, the private consumption demand. And private consumption demand, it would have helped if the taxation policy had been such that it would have put more disposable income in the hands of the people, and that would have raised their consumption level, and that would have helped in reviving the economy at a much faster rate. This is what I feel. I thought a little more attention to that area should have been given. There is something on corporate tax, but that is also not very clear. It's on corporate tax on cooperatives actually. So that doesn't mean much. I thought it was on corporate tax, but later on I read it's corporate tax on cooperatives, which has been decreased. So I don't know how much of a difference will that make. And then people are talking about tax on cryptocurrency. I don't know how much money that will rake in, but cryptocurrency has got accepted. When you tax something, you accept it. That means the whole debate about whether it is legal or not legal or what is not, I think they have accepted it as being legal. That's why you are taxing it. And RBI is also going to reduce digital currency. There are two things that have been pointed out insofar as this is concerned. Again, as I'll take off on what was said by some of the previous speaker, Mr. Vidya Sagar Singh also, I thought a little more could have been done for the hospitality sector also, because I look around myself in UP, this sector has really suffered and a lot of units have closed down. And even in the MSME sector, let me share with you, everything is not rosy. The credit linked guarantee scheme is all right, 5 lakh crore, 3 lakh crore, whatever it is. But look at who is taking advantage of it. The micro sector has not got anything out of that. The micro sector, which is 90% of the MSME sector, which employs 97% of the people in the MSME, doesn't get anything out of this credit linked guarantee scheme at all. And that is a sector where it is leading to unemployment in a big way. In a big way. People are in the streets today because 33% of the MSME units are shut down. I know for Uttar Pradesh, I know the figure. 33% of the MSME units have shut down after the COVID thing. And is there, I see there's only 6,000 crores being provided in all for this. I don't know how or where the plan is for revival of the MSME sector, which I thought should have been there. And it was very, very important. So these are some of the comments I had. Of course, I'll once again like to emphasize at the cost of repetition, this country needs more expenditure on health and education. This country needs more emphasis on health and education. These two sectors have to be the vital sectors. And that I find somehow missing in the budget.
Right. Mr. Metri, two very important points Mr. Ranjan raised. One is expenditure on education and healthcare sector. And also in the beginning around, the benefit for the central government or a salaried class employee, which seems to be completely not touched at all. Would you like to share your views around the announcement and whatever the expenditure is being shown around education and healthcare?
Yeah, I think education, if you look into that directly, I think this time, if you look at the last year, it was 93,000 crores. It was allocated and somewhere between 4.1% of the GDP. But this time it is not highlighted that part, yet it has not come clearly. But however, if you look at the total budget speech, one is digital university. It is basically the investment on digital university and hub and spoke model, and hub will be of ICT expertise and connecting and providing students personalized experience and universalization of education. This is one great thing, I must say. Apart from that, revising the curriculum of agriculture university, that is another important point highlighted, keeping in sync with the climate change and organic farming and net zero and all those things, keeping in mind. That is another important agriculture part is concerned, revising. Third, if you look at the urban planning, if you go by the McKinsey report, every year 13.5 million people move from rural to urban, and even in spite of smart cities, lot of issues and healthcare, and as Ranjan rightly said, in the city, healthcare is going to be a biggest challenge, and this number is going to increase. And basically, that is where urban planning and modern urban planning, and also keeping Indian knowledge in mind, I think there is a provision of 5 centers of excellence. And each government is going to spend 250 crore for each center in geographically distributed, and All India Council for Technical Education is going to work on the curriculum so that we can have urban planning. We have very few cities like Chandigarh, the town planning is neat and clean, and that also helps for the health as well as population control. So that is one part is mentioned, and probably I would have allowed, I think, as Ranjan ji said, some of the things in smart villages. Probably that part, we could have, if you do the smart village, probably the rush from rural to urban will not come, and smart village, smart agriculture definitely arrest the urban growth. And according to one study, top 6 cities of the world, they have 10% of the global population, and top 600 cities have 30% of the global population. India also now urban population is increasing, rural is coming down. So keeping that in mind, this is another thing. I think it is a well thought out urban planning part. And then apart from that, the sunrise opportunities, there is another column, sunrise opportunities, looking at the industry 4.0, the cloud and IoT and all those, the latest modern tools and techniques, and training in that area, and also working industry academia together. That is one part, I think, emphasized how to, because normally we work in isolated academia and industry, but here is the one opportunity, and that there is the fund allocated for that is also, I count it is a part of education, and there is an opportunity for R&D. And apart from that, Atmanirbhar Bharat for defense, the defense budget for R&D budget, there judiciously it is mentioned that it is for the academia and industry and defense coming together and developing a defense product, even though the allocation for private is also there. So this also, again, this share is also come for the education, because if you see that India, if you really want to position as a leader at global level, then R&D, unless until we grow in R&D, we come out of our own product, we will not position ourselves as a leader. And that is how I think I can see a lot of focus has been given. And even if you look at the PM Vidya scheme, from one class, one TV, from 12 to now the 200 TVs, and also regional languages, the connecting the people for entire state. I think this needs a huge funding and investment. And apart from that, I was talking about digital university, because digital divide, and also government has a digital India scheme. But unless until, because of pandemic, and even though after pandemic we felt more about the digital divide between urban and rural, this digital university probably it is going to bring down the gap, and even the smallest village of India is connect the best of the best bandwidth and facilities through this digital university. And I must say that I am part of one of the committee member of the digital university. Maharashtra government has already appointed a committee. We are working on that. 2-3 months back, government of Maharashtra has done, and already it has come. I am sure this all put together. And apart from that, vocational training, if you look at the vocational training, 750 virtual laboratories government has mentioned, and the science, technology and mathematics, a simulation learning environment will be created. Apart from that, there is one more interesting, I think probably Mamaji might have observed, GIFT IFC. So that Gujarat International Finance Tech City or International Financial Services Center. So here exclusively for the foreign universities, and the institution will be allowed in the GIFT City to offer courses. Otherwise, they would have been restricted by the domestic regulation in India. So the courses like financial management, fintech, science, mathematics, management, these kind of courses. This is again another provision it has been made in this. So like this, if you put all this together, I think there is a sizably good amount of money required for that, but the fund is not mentioned. So
Right.
probably that may be the one reason, otherwise, if you count all those together, I can say that reasonably there is a good amount, but always if you compare the world's top, they're 7.6%, if you go to the Switzerland, they spend, and India, relatively, we are extremely low. That way,
Right.
probably one has to, go for 6% or so. It is ideally expected for the spending. So comparing to that, it is less otherwise. So if you look at the
Yes.
past, it is reasonably good. So this is what.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'll check with
Thank
Mr.
you.
Amit once again if we have him. Mr. Amit, are you able to hear us? Mr. Amit, are you able to hear us? I think again there seems to be some audio issue with him. So I'll go to Mr. Amit. Uh, Mr. Jindal, in the budget, other than what Mr. Metri was talking about in a very broad sense, some of the nuance around the education announcement and the collective impact it could have on education as well as on skill development and usage of technology. There is also very important announcement, creation of 60 lakhs jobs. Now, 60 lakhs jobs creation means that you need to focus a lot on reskilling part, skill development, vocational education, focus on emerging technologies such as AI, machine learning, artificial intelligence, robotics, blockchain, and all. So, how do you look at the role of emerging technologies vis-a-vis creating the job on meeting this target of 60 lakhs jobs?
Correct.
So,
So, I think that we have entered into the fourth industrial revolutions, and these technologies are playing a critical role in the growth of the economy. So, if you're gonna see technology called artificial intelligence, they will be contributing $15.7 trillion economy by 2030. The technology like blockchain will be contributing $1.76 trillion economy, global economy by 2030. These are the power of this technology, and government are relying on these technology and working along this technology. But as a result of the blockchain, there are these virtual data currencies also, which Ranjan was also talking. And government is shifting from banning to regulating these currencies. Now they are taxing this at the rate of 30% slab rate, along with a deduction of TDS. But only one challenge, practical challenge I see in these virtual currency, be it cryptocurrencies or non-fungible tokens. There are more than 8,000 cryptocurrencies in the world, and how are you going to monitor these cryptocurrencies, or how are you going to calculate the amount of taxations or the amount of transaction involved? So I think that is one of the biggest challenge which I see still the government have to solve, to how to compute the taxation on these transfer of these crypto assets. And so whether it will be self-muto declarations of these assets and taxations, or there will be way or mechanics to compute taxation on these virtual assets. I will say definitely, but government is playing entirely focuses on the IT infrastructures and on these new technology, and they will highly relying on these new technologies. Yeah.
Mr. Sagar, now I'll come to you because I'm not sure whether Mr. Singh's audio issue has been fixed or not. In the budget, there is also focus on startup, and earlier you mentioned about the renewed focus on agriculture. A startup in agriculture to create a kind of drone shakti, and lot of emphasis is being used by small and medium enterprises to use technology, especially in the traditional areas. And government is trying to promote drone as a service, especially drone to be used as a crop assessment, digitization of land record, spraying of insecticides. I mean, these are new method of using technology, and in most of these projects, there are a startup or a small and medium enterprises involved, which is providing some level of services. So maybe the bigger data management every might be going to Microsoft and SAP for processing and all. but the drone and other thing mostly provided by some startup. Would you like to share your view as to how do you look at this, uh, an accelerated focus on digital in the budget uh, from a MSME point of view?
Yeah, so Ujaley ji, as I said in the beginning, and in fact, our other co-panelists have also talked that there is a lot of focus on digitization, and Alok Ranjan sir started the discussion with this topic that in all the fields almost digitization is the if we can say that the one word or USP for this budget. So if we say it's the digitization push budget, so I think may not be wrong, wrong. So yeah, so startup. See, drone we have, as we have seen in the Republic Day also with the help of IIT Delhi, there were show by 1,000 drones. And drone, I think it's good for the country like India that we adopt, accept these future, upcoming technologies and, regulate them well on time and, provide incentive to the MSMEs and startup to promote that. Otherwise, I see that, in past we have missed on those aspects, and because of those reasons, some of the other countries have, taken the lead. And, it eventually, if we miss some of these technologies, then what happens that, it gets developed or produced in other countries and we miss a big bus, So what happens? It leaves us a lot of dent in terms of we have to import, or we miss a lot of employment opportunity, or we also miss the export opportunity. So I think this is a very good initiative once again, that if we are recognizing drone as a tool or technology for so many services in so many categories as you mentioned, then it's better that if we incentivize them, we have a policy in place, and we recognize and reward them. So I think there is already that this is a good initiative, and the government have also extended the tax benefit for startup which were offered redemption of taxes for 3 consecutive years, which were earlier, have been extended for one more year. So this is about the drone or startup innovation scheme. I would also like to touch about some of the that public procurement thing or some of the other areas which have been touched in the budget. So if you see, public procurement is very very important because India is developing country and government have trillions of worth of buying these product and services on an annual basis, and there is a 25% mandatory procurement to be done from MSME. But and somehow the all those CPSCs and departments are now after a lot of push are meeting that 25% target, although within the subcategory there are still issues, right? So for the CSPs and women there is a challenge. So but one of the major challenge for the MSMEs is the working capital or cash flow problem. And if they have a problem with the government department, then it's something which is not right. So what government have announced in this budget is that they are saying that the finance minister said that 75% of running bill payment will be made within 10 days, which is I think a landmark initiative. As of now, there is already a provision that MSME, as per the MSMED Act 2006, that all MSMEs bill must be paid within 45 days, right? And it's applicable even for the corporates also, not only for the public sector. So but this initiative that 75% of running bill will be paid by the within 10 days at least to start with the from the government department services is a very welcome initiative. And there are a lot of PSUs or department where payments are delayed, you know which is a very big problem for MSMEs. So this is one. And to support how I think the finance minister also touched the how they are going to do it. So she said that they are going to start the e-bill. So if they are going to, and that's how the digitally signed e-bill, and that's how they will be able to probably track it and monitor it and know where is the delayed and all that. There is already a Samadhan portal is already there by the MSME ministry, where all the delayed payment of the MSME from the central government, all the ministry departments are being tracked on a regular basis. And now this is another initiative to solve a delayed payment problem, which is a big problem for MSMEs, and which will help their cash flow and working capital requirement. This second thing is that she also talked about surety bond instead of bank guarantee. So you must be knowing that in the government department in tender there is a performance bank guarantee requirement. So to if there is tomorrow if there is an issue, I mean any issue, so it's taken care. So government finance minister has said that instead of bank guarantee, they are making a provision to deposit surety bonds. So I think that is going to help MSMEs, and it will not block their capital in getting the money from for getting the bank guarantee from the bank. So these are related to working capital problem, and it will have some impact at least in coming time on the MSME, and these are good initiative. It's actually they are not straightforward, but
Right.
they are very well thought through and handled in a different way.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you that most of the announcement are not straightforward. So you have to get into it, and possibly you have to read the supplementary thing, and then there could be some correlative analysis between what was announced last year and what is there, and then possibly those gap could be find out. Mr. Amit Singh, are you able to hear us? If you can give me a go ahead.
I think I am in a better condition to hear now.
Right, right.
Although the
So
budget
I'll
was
come to you
technology,
straight away.
I am facing technology challenges.
Yes. So I'll come to you straight away. As you would have heard all the speakers, there are two very key elements coming out of budget, and one of them happens to be there is emphasis on technology usage, and so much so that data center has got a kind of infrastructure status in the budget.
Yes.
So I would like to understand from you as to how do you look at the budget from a technology point of view, also from e-governance point of view.
First of all, I would like to thank ET for providing me this opportunity. And I would like to express that I'm really feeling privileged to be in company of such an elite panel where Alok sir is there, Metri sir is there, Vidya sir is there. So I am really delighted to be part of the panel. So as far as this technology across sector is considered, I think it's quite a welcome step. And with this entire announcement around digital economy, digital health ecosystem, e-passports, I think government has actually recognized technology as the key of India's growth that will pave way for the tech-enabled digital economy. Very clearly, if you see the way things have been structured, it very clearly appears that government is understanding that technology will be the force multiplier, and budget does reiterate about that government strong reliance on digital for economic growth. Whether you are talking about, as you pointed out, acknowledging data centers, whether you're talking about setting up of 75 digital banking centers, whether you're talking about national digital health ecosystem, e-passports, all these are something which are very important aspects which will pave way for digital-led economy revival. Also, there were certain comments that were related to the entire digital currency and its acceptance. So, if it has been proposed that there would be certain kind of long-term benefit tax that would be applied upon the digital economy. So I tend to agree with the panel that this, in a way, is a soft acceptance of cryptocurrency in India. Moving to the next part, when we are talking about blockchain and setting up e-passports, this is something which shows of the future technologies are a step in the right direction that is going to help India to emerge as a global technology leader. I think Metri sir was talking about the entire opportunity that we might miss if we do not have that kind of a first mover advantage related to the emerging tech. And where we have spoken about drone as a service. So as in my experience, drone as a service is something which we are still, we do not have a first mover advantage. We are at least 4 years behind China. China in somewhere in 2017, 2018 had launched 3 dedicated drone universities to promote the entire innovation, research and development around drone and drones applicability for the improvement in their focused agriculture sector. So I think a delayed decision, but a step in the right direction. And this focus on innovation and R&D with emphasis on talent and capacity, especially around science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This is entire universities and skilling courses. I'm pretty sure this is typically going to help us into sustain India's economic and digital growth. Having said that, one important aspect which I wanted to talk about specifically, which Alok sir pointed out, was related to how and what ways these 60 lakh jobs which have been spoken about in next 5 years, how those will come about. And I think maybe we have to go into the fine print to understand whether those have been detailed or not. But in my experience, the way we have seen so many IPOs coming from our startup ecosystem, and which are the primary big employers today, I think going forward with our entire program around unified logistic program, or we are talking about one station, one product related to railway, all these would have a cascading impact of that employment generation.
Right, right. Absolutely. I'll go to now Mr. Alok Ranjan. Mr. Ranjan, two things I would like to have your views. One is that there is a broader sense of understanding that digital is a major focus. And as I earlier said, and you said also, somehow it is becoming a vehicle for delivering different services to citizen, implementing different projects and plan. Uh, but for digital to succeed, you need to have an underlying infrastructure. I mean, the three elements, very important: compute, storage, and networking. Uh, Especially the connectivity part is very important. In rural areas, you do face a lot of challenges. In northeastern, if you go beyond Assam, even if you go a little bit down to Shillong and all, your cell phone will start actually not replying to you. So we do have serious challenge, and that is the case even in our uh, some of the urban areas in and around metropolitan cities. So we do have a sincere challenge to tackle on the connectivity part. Second thing I would like to focus on to you, which you earlier actually said that there is no major as such announcement around urban, jobs and urban development. So earlier we had a smart cities project, and for a 5 year, a lot of funds were allocated, and some of the smart cities have done quite good. Some of them actually set up their command and control centers, and there was expectation that there will be a re-emphasis on those things, but we have not seen any major touch point, especially around the smart cities. Would you like to share your views on two important aspects? One is the connectivity part, which is easier said than done, and second is the smart city part.
Mr. Ujaley, I think you're right. But I think I'll agree with Mr. Amit Singh and all the other speakers have also said that we must appreciate the focus on technology and digitization which is there in this budget. That is definitely a very, very good initiative in the right direction. And to understand that technology is the prime mover in the 21st century, I think this has been very well brought out. Of course, as Mr. Metri said, this needs more on expenditure on R&D at each level. There is something provided for R&D here. There is focus on it, but maybe much more than that. Because I was reading somewhere the number of patents in India is not even 1/10 of the number of patents in many other countries, even China. So there is so much more that is required to be done if we want to really become a 21st century society or a 21st century economy. But all said and done, yes, I do appreciate the focus on digitization. Yes, a lot of work has to be done about digital connectivity, about digital infrastructure. I think that's why they're talking about rolling out 5G. I think that they have talked about that in the budget. And I think the whole question will be on how well it gets implemented. If the implementation is good, then maybe this kind of digital connectivity that they're talking about will come about. However, I must point out a couple of things as I'm repeating those issues. As I said, okay, healthcare, digital healthcare, excellent idea, brilliant idea. We must go for digital healthcare. But then digital healthcare does not solve the problem of healthcare by itself. If the basic structure of healthcare is not there, if there are no doctors, if there are no nurses, if there are no pharmacists, if there are no lab technicians, if the hospitals are understaffed, if the specialists are not there, then digital by itself doesn't solve the problem. That's what I want to say. That digitization is a very good thing. We must appreciate it. But digitization does not by itself solve everything. We have to go for the sound fundamentals, the basics. Similarly in education. All right, Vidya, all right, digital university, all right, online classrooms, all right, virtual labs. But all said and done, unless the basic quality of education at the primary level and the basic quality of education at the higher education level, the GER at the higher education and secondary level increases or improves, you're not going to have an advanced society. You're not going to get youth which are employable, youth who can make a difference. And that is what I want to say. Though, of course, I must appreciate one thing. They have talked about Anganwadis. And they said that we'll double the, I think, the income or something of the upgradation of Anganwadis they've talked about, because that is essential. Foundational literacy, if you want to provide, then for foundational literacy, you have to focus on the Anganwadis, who are playing a very, very major role in the rural areas with respect to foundation literacy and numeracy, and therefore early childhood care education, which I think is very, very vital and cannot be ignored. Similarly, I'm happy about the focus on nutrition, and especially female nutrition, which is mentioned. And that is an area which requires a lot of effort, because India in the 21st century, in one way, we want to become a digital economy. At the other end, we have so much 37% stunting, 35% wasting, this kind of thing happening in a society when children are getting stunted, wasted because of malnutrition. This is not acceptable. And so rightly so, there is talk of nutrition in this budget, especially on women nutrition. I would say, let's have more on it. Malnutrition is a scourge which should be fought. And let us have more schemes related to that. Let us focus more on that, because unless we have healthy children, healthy people, how can we have a healthy society and a developing or a fast-moving society in that direction, is what I wanted to say. Then a couple of things I must mention, that some things were mentioned in the last budget, but in this speech, I could not see it there. Like they said, about 1,75,000 crores will come through divestment or privatization. Air India has been privatized, but that apart, only about 9,000 crores has come this year from divestment against a target of 1,75,000. So how do you get the balance? The CEL divestment has come into problems. BPCL is also pending somewhere. LIC IPO is coming in a month or so. Maybe that will be something good. But still, how do we get this kind of money which we thought will come from divestment? I think is another area which should have been some kind of a focus on this. Again, the monetization pipeline, 6 lakh crore monetization pipeline was there. I was looking for something that this year, this much of the pipeline would get monetized actually. That hasn't really come about. So is it just something like an intention, or how is that intention going to be translated into yearly action? And that, I think, budget could have pointed that out to some extent. But these are some of my views basically on this issue.
Right. We are in the last leg of this panel discussion because we have around 10 minutes left. We have already focused on the digital part, education, healthcare, a bit of infrastructure. Now I'll go to some specific of the announcement, and we'll merge a couple of them together. And then I'll go to Mr. Metri. Mr. Metri, in the budget, there is a mention of SEZ Act to be repealed, and it has to be replaced by some different act, and possibly that will be more generous, wherein different types of company would be able to take the benefit. Also, on the infrastructure development part, there is a mention of 2,000 kilometer of building rail network across the country. Also, there is Vande Bharat trains. So 4 new generation Vande Bharat trains will be run. And one of the very important program, which is Gati Shakti program, which was running earlier, it has been now being run via Gati Shakti master plan is being thought of. And possibly around 25,000 kilometer is the target till 2023. On EV, which is very hot, electric vehicle, there is a battery swapping policy which finance minister has spoken. And as Mr. Ranjan said, that the 5G focus is there, and there is an announcement that the auction will be held in the upcoming financial year. And 5G, possibly if we are able to roll out, it will actually enable somehow solve the problem of digital connectivity. Earlier, Mr. Vidya Sagar mentioned about the natural farming, organic farming, and Kisan drones and all. One very important thing on the health, which is mental health program, that is also mentioned. So in the end, I would like to have your brief remarks in overall sense, since you have explained in detail on how this budget has focused on education, skill development, but on broader infrastructure part, especially on the hardcore infrastructure part, including the railway, Gati Shakti, and also the center relationship with the state. Because in the budget, there is a provision of 1 lakh crore allocated to the state. And as we understand, because of the COVID-19 situation, some of the states are really under strain financially. Your remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Mohd. I think I'll begin with mental health. I think the government has already made a provision, and also where the technology part is concerned, they identified International Institute of Information Technology, Bangalore, to provide the technology for because of the pandemic and mental health and all those issues to solve. I think that in the budget itself, it is very clearly mentioned the technology support will be provided by IIIT Bangalore. And if you look at the basically the PM Gati Shakti, I think this is more of infrastructure. I can talk about all put together 7 engines. They all talk about different kinds of the transportation. It is land and air and all those things. So logistics. So this, I think it has been if you observe last 5-6 years, there is a tremendous growth in the infrastructure. I think which never happened, and even I think every day about more than 30 kilometer a day kind of progress. It is extremely good progress has happened in the infrastructure, and further to boost the infrastructure, I think this Gati Shakti scheme and the budget allocation, definitely it will make a mark for the growth of the economy and to position India at a global level. Because China did, I think in 1994 to 2005, that 9 years, they did 50% of the cement produced in the world and 35% of the steel produced in the world. They build the Chinese infrastructure, and they suddenly they came up as a leader. So I think this particular Gati Shakti definitely take us to the higher level. And if you look at the other than this, that drone as a service, I think that we were talking about, I think even the finance minister clearly mentioned every state, some of the IITs, the ITIs, they will identify and they will be provided required training in connection with the drone as a service. So again, they have brought the connection of that one. And again, if you look at the national skill development framework, Government of India has come out with that, I think, to enhance the quality of education. I think that they are and national higher education quality framework is also there. In skilling program, they have mentioned national skill qualification framework, basically to align with the dynamic needs of the industry. So like this, I think the connection has been brought from the various sources, so that connecting the dot has been done. And typically, as I think everybody, we agreed that to in this world, to take the world to the smart world, we call in education smart universities are going to come up as a part of digital university and connecting to the globe. So similarly, the world, it is called as a smart society to emerge. I think the connecting the dots with each and everything, it is happening. And if you whatever the areas you mentioned, all those areas, digital part is there, plus the allocation of fund in those areas and connecting the industry academia. First time probably I can see in the budget, whether it is a defense, whether it is a industry, that sunrise industry opportunities, everywhere academia has been brought. Even this Gati Shakti, I must say, that most of the higher education institution, they have Section 8 companies. For example, I have Section 8 company. We have a CLIP, Council for Logistics Infrastructure Project Management. We do a lot of project with the government in the area of project management, even disaster management. So like that, the connection have been established to provide the technical expertise. I think that is this is how I think this will take our country to the next level, and whatever the provisions provided, I think as Ranjan ji said, the success depends upon the execution, and
Absolutely.
the degree of success depends upon how we execute, and that is going to be a USP for the success. I hope this will, I think we will take it to the next level with successful implementation.
We are just left with 1.5 minutes, so I'll request our speaker to just take 30 seconds possibly. Mr. Vidya Sagar, I'll come to you. Your last thought on the budget, though we do not have the exact fine prints right now, and we are not aware how much money has been allocated to technology, IT department, or MSME right now. But your general last thoughts, sir.
So my the last thought, Ujaley ji, would be that we should not see this budget we should just see this budget continuation of last budget actually, because I think the finance minister have not touched or talked about the areas, whether it's health or whether it's the other areas which they have already, the smart cities or whatever. So I think they are going to continue as it is. So she have just talked about the new initiative which they have taken, and we should see in that aspect.
Right. Mr. Jindal, I'll come to you. Your last thought, especially there is so much focus on technology from blockchain to digital education, everything. How do you look at?
Yeah. So last closing remark is that apart from the technology side, I can see in the budget there have been focus on the startups also. So government is involving the startups, be it the drone as a service or battery swapping policy or in the defense R&D policies, and they can understand there are 81 unicorns currently, and they are expecting more 50 unicorns can come in 2020 this year. So extending a year for it under 80 IC section, this will help the startup ecosystem. And so I can say last word is that apart from technology, government is also focusing on the startup. Yeah.
Right. Mr. Singh?
So I would like to take it forward from where Vidya sir has left. So while budget gives you a very high level policy level view, but I think what we have seen, the shift is that the budget is not looked upon as a opportunity to announce large programs and large schemes, because if you look at it, Government of India in October itself, on 2nd October, they had launched the Amrut 2 and Swachh Bharat 2.0. These are the two programs where outlay is more than 2,50,000 crore rupees for focusing towards 4,800 urban local bodies. Now, this is something which there was no I would say provision that was shown in that budget. However, these were announced in the last year, and these will be carrying forward for next 5 years. So very clearly,
Right.
what we see is that now government is focusing more and more towards announcing these programs as and when the need requires, rather than waiting
Right.
for one fine day as a budget and to announce
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Ranjan, the senior most, last word to you, sir. You are on mute. You are on mute, actually, if you can unmute yourself.
No, my last comment is it's a growth-oriented budget. There's a technology-oriented budget. There are a lot of positive aspects to it, and let's hope they get executed properly so that people of India get the kind of results that they're expecting from this budget. And some of the issues which I pointed out, which also need to be looked in during the course of the year.
Right, I completely agree with you on this, that this budget is completely growth-oriented budget, and it's the focus is completely on the fast-tracking the economy, providing opportunities to businesses, and creating 6 million job. And I'm sure there will be a lot of fine prints around them. There is focus on the agriculture, healthcare, MSME, infrastructure. Also, the different areas, especially role of technology, has been explored in detail. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist and sharing your views on the budget 22 and the way we should be actually deciphering some of the key announcement of the budget and what is there actually in the budget for different sectors. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.